Hi, I'm Scott. This video is for my section hike along the Appalachian Trail from Trent's Grocery near Bland, Virginia to Troutville, Virginia. 120 miles. This video is part of a series of videos I have that document my section hiking along the Appalachian Trail, the AT. In this video, I document my 120-mile section hike from Trent's Grocery near Bland, Virginia, all the way to Troutville, Virginia, which is just north of Daleville. As I go northbound on the AT, this is considered my 8th section hike. This section hike took place in September 2017. My hiking buddy Larry joined me on this section hike. It was a Friday morning at 7:30 a.m. Larry and I jumped in his vehicle and we drove the 8 hours from Shepherdsville, Kentucky to Troutville, Virginia. We went to the AT trailhead just off of Virginia Highway 11. We left Larry's vehicle at the trailhead parking lot. Our shuttle driver, Nina, she had met us at the AT trailhead. We jumped in her car and she took us the hour and 30 minutes south to Bland, Virginia at Trent's Grocery. By the time our shuttle driver, Nina, got us to the trailhead near Trent's Grocery, it was 4:45 p.m. Larry and I jumped out of our car, grabbed our backpacks, and we headed off down the trail. Let's see how we did. Larry and I jumped in his truck on a Friday morning and we drove the 8 hours from Shepherdsville, Kentucky to Troutville, Virginia. There we arrived at the trailhead parking lot in Troutville. For our shuttle service this time, we used Nina's shuttle service. This is the second time we've used Nina's shuttle service during our section hikes. We were happy with the service she provided us on our first time, so we called her back and she was glad to help us out on this second trip. She's really nice, she's helpful, she knows her way around, and she works basically the Shenandoah Park area, a little bit north of it and a little bit south of it. As expected, Nina was there when we arrived, waiting for us. She's very punctual, so were we. We were only 2 minutes behind schedule. Parking at the trailheads for the AT is free, so we left Larry's truck there for the week, and we hopped in Nina's shuttle vehicle, and she whisked us away as we headed down the road from Troutville, Virginia to Bland, Virginia, actually to Trent's Grocery, which is on Virginia Highway 606. It was an hour and 45-minute drive, and it cost us $130. Every section hike seems to have a backstory, and this backstory for this section hike was I was sick 5 out of the 8 days. I had a sore throat starting the Thursday night before the trail, and then I had green drainage and fatigue. When we resupplied in Pearisburg, I got me some Dayquil, and so I was hitting up on Dayquil 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. And then finally on day 5, diarrhea struck, which is kind of dangerous on the trail because that leads to dehydration. We got to the trailhead near Trent's Grocery on Virginia 606 around 4:45 p.m. on that Friday afternoon, and we hiked for about 3¼ hours. We went past Dismal Falls, and we finally arrived to our destination for the night, Wapiti Shelter. Wapiti Shelter is famous. It's haunted because it was the site of a double homicide murder in 1981, the only such event that's ever occurred on the AT. And then ironically, the guy who committed the murders made parole and he headed back to the trail. And in 1996, it was the area of a double murder attempt. He shot both of the hikers, they both survived, and they caught the perpetrator, Randall Smith.
Hey, out here on AT hike in September. Started in Trent's Grocery in Bland, Virginia. about 2.5 miles, 3 miles up the trail. We're running something called Dismal Falls. So this is Dismal Creek, and it just comes down this way. Starts picking up speed along these rocks. And this whole thing's right along the trail. We took a couple steps off, but here's the falls right here. And the falls go into this swimming hole. You can't really tell, but that's probably 5 to 6 feet deep right there. And out there below those rocks, it's about 4 to 5 feet deep. So the locals come here. That's the rest of the creek going off that way. So locals come here and they swim in this swimming hole. There's all kinds of tent sites along the way where they come in for the weekend and they tent up. So a lot of AT people, AT hikers will come down here also and just check out the falls, set up a tent site, and just relax, get some water, and then, sad to say, take a bath or go swimming in that.
Day 2, and I was still struggling with being sick, but I really didn't have time to feel sorry for myself as things kept happening on the trail. We had an adventure getting water at Doc Knob Shelter. You'll see the video on that. And then we started climbing all afternoon, and we got to the top for the jump out views to look down at Pearisburg. Then we descended down into Pearisburg, where we stayed for the night at the Holiday Manor Motel. We did a food resupply at Food Line, and then went back to our room, did our laundry, got some showers, and we settled in for the U of L versus Clemson football game. Unfortunately, the game didn't end well for U of L.
Hey, we're at Doc's Knob Shelter. I'm the AT, and this boulder field leads to the shelter. So Larry and I came up this boulder field because we needed water. And there's the water sign on the tree, that blue blaze. And there's Larry down getting, whoops, almost fell and busted my ass. But there's Larry down in a puddle getting our water. That's where our water's coming from for lunch.
Yep.
So
boy, does it look good.
Yummy. Naturally filtered. So when you want to know where our water's come from, these are all rhododendron bushes.
Under a rock, under a tree.
Yeah, that's our water for the lunch. Later. Hi, Larry and I are hiking. This is our second day from Bland to Troutville, Virginia. We just came up about a 1,500 foot climb. First climb of today's hike, and this is our jump off view. And just to give you all an idea why it's worth this, all the sweat, and that here's the view, and it's about 180-degree view. We're above the clouds. That's why we do it right there. That's fantastic. Looks like cotton candy out there. The video's just not doing this justice. So very cool. Very excited to all that sweat we just got doing. So I want to share that with you guys. Like I said, it just looks like a big bowl of cotton candy sitting on these mountains and these over top the valleys. So later. All right, we're here in Virginia. We're just outside Pearisburg. We've hiked 15 miles today, up and up, and we're at the peak. So we're getting ready to do a 2-mile descent down into Pearisburg. So we come along the trail here, and there's this jump out view. You get these every now and then. And this one was pretty impressive. So we're still on the trail. We're now like 5 feet off the trail. And we're roughly 3,600 feet. And these are the type of views you get when you work hard all day. So that's the valley below us. And we're way up here off these cliffs. I'm not putting my toes over this one, but we're way up here. And very impressive, very scenic, very peaceful. So very impressive.
Day 3, and I'm still dealing with being sick. However, now, since the resupply, I got a box of Dayquil, and I'm taking that sucker morning, noon, and night, 3 times a day. Makes me a little drowsy, but it's helping me with my drainage problems. We had a long, tough climb out of Pearisburg in the morning, and then we had a fiasco finding water. it was actually located behind a rock, and we were looking at the wrong pipe that was out in the middle of the trail. The good water was 100 yards up trail, and that saved our day because we were dry. And then we got to Ricefield Shelter, which has a beautiful view overlooking the valley. And then finally, we descended into our camping spot for the day at Allegheny Trail intersection.
We'll be here a while.
We just got done doing a massive climb out of Pearisburg. We're at our last water source for the next 12.6 miles, which for us is 6 hours of hiking, and it's 12 o'clock, so
Lunch and dinner.
lunch and dinner is coming from that. There's like a couple of drips coming out of that pipe, and then we're going to try and get the water out of those mud puddles, filter it through a bandana, and then through a water filter, so we can try to get a liter somehow out of here and take it with us for the next 12.6 miles. More on that if we're successful or if we fail. Hey, here we are, it's 1 o'clock. We're ready to stop and eat lunch. There's the shelter. It's just tucked away in the wood line. Larry and I hiked up through these woods, came through this pasture, and they got this lookout up here that we're sitting around chilling out. It's pretty impressive. Shows the valley down in there. Shows the valley down in there. I'm just gonna do about 270-degree view of that for you. So we've been hiking uphill all morning, almost 5 hours counting our breaks. So we finally reached the top. And over here you can actually see there's the trail right there in the middle, that little green swath. We're gonna, after eat lunch, we'll walk up, let's see if I can do this. Oops. We'll walk up that trail right there and disappear into those woods and go for the rest of the day, another 4 hours. But anyway, I want to show you this view.
Day 4, and I'm still dealing with being sick. I'm still taking my Dayquil morning, noon, and night. The first shelter we came upon in the morning was Pine Swamp Shelter, which is closed due to the infestation of the gypsy moth, which is killing all the local trees. They're afraid the trees might fall down on the shelter, so they don't want you staying there. Later on, we passed a famous place called the Captain's Place, which was closed. It was kind of a bummer. At around 6 o'clock, we arrived at War Spur Shelter, where we got some water, we cooked our dinner, ramen noodles and mashed potatoes. We got more water, and then we headed on down the trail again for another mile or so. And we came upon the Laurel Creek Trailhead, a big grassy area where we pitched our tents for the night.
All right, here we are, we're on our 4th day on our AT trip in Central Virginia. Last climb of the day. We're at, I guess, 3,600 feet, somewhere like that, on this outcropping at Mountain Lake Wilderness, where it's how many millions, Rick?
100 million.
100 million acres of forest. So this is basically pristine area you're looking at. 100 million acres, Mountain Lake Wilderness. Pretty impressive.
Day 5 on the trail, and I'm still sick. I'm still taking my Dayquil, morning, noon, and night. And then another issue happened. In the morning, I woke up with diarrhea. I had 3 bouts with it, which is very dangerous on the trail because it leads to dehydration. Even though I was sick, it was still an exciting day. We were hiking across fields and pastures, although it didn't feel good hiking in the sun and not feeling good. And then we came across the Kaffir oak, the largest oak in the southern portion of the AT. This oak tree literally stood right beside the AT. You hiked right underneath of it. It was quite impressive. The more pictures we took, the more we started understanding its grandeur, its bigness, its largeness. It was huge. Next, we came across a bunch of rock cairns. This is where the farmers had stacked all the rocks that were in their field on top of this mountain so that it became a pasture where they could have their cattle graze. Now it's just all overgrown, and the only thing that remains from these structures that were built over 100 years ago was these rock cairn formations. While hiking in the afternoon, we got to play another round of that famous game, stick or snake, snake or stick, stick or snake. Snakes move, sticks don't move. And finally, toward the end of the day, we came to the Eastern Continental Divide. This is where water flows on one side of the divide to the Atlantic Ocean, and it flows on the other side of the divide to the Mississippi River. So yeah, I had to pee on the trail to see which way the pee would go.
Hey, I'm out here in Central Virginia, somewhat close to Narrows, Virginia, and we just popped out of the forest for a little bit. Do about 4 miles of hiking in pastures and cow pastures. So this is what the scenery looks like. It's kind of cool. It's different. Seeing trees all day long, but downside is the sun's out and it's hot. I mean, it's probably only 75 degrees, but the sun's just beating down on you. I've not been feeling good. I've had a sinus infection, headaches this whole trip, so a little dehydrated. We've had issues with water. We're on a 12-mile stretch now with no water, so I'm carrying 3 liters of water with me in the sun, and 3 liters of water is about 6.5 pounds. That's extra weight on my back that I love to have in the heat. So I don't know, I think we're probably around mile 75 out of 120, so we're over halfway. But this is just a different hike through these cow pastures. This is actually a field, not even a cow pasture, so I thought you all enjoy that, seeing something different instead of trees or big views. So where we actually dropped down, we've dropped down today. We're at the top of that mountain right there, straight ahead on the frame. We dropped down out of that, and we're going down to a gap, and then we're going to climb up over somewhere along that ridge line. We're crossing over. I'm not sure where yet, but we'll be going up and over that this afternoon after lunch. We're going down the bottom here and have lunch later. All right, we're something a little bit different on this video. Larry and I are somewhere just outside of Narrows, Virginia, about 10 miles along the AT. And we're beside the second biggest oak tree on the AT, the largest one in the south. And Larry's standing there beside it to give us some perspective how big this thing is. I think it's 18 feet around circumference. And it's the largest oak tree on the AT in the south of the AT. So a little bit different than these big views we usually videotape, just to show you how big this tree is. And you can see the path right in front of it, so we hiked right past it. I'm just on the edge of a cow pasture, so I'm dodging cow patties, but I thought y'all would get a kick at a little bit different video on how big this tree is. All right, that's it. Later. Hey, it's toward the end of the day. We're on the AT, we're walking along, and this is our first snake of the week. So here's a nice, looks 4 to 5 footer black snake laying out across the trail. Almost stepped on him. Thought he was a rubber hose at first, but I'll give you a picture of him as I go by. So not too bad.
Hang more right.
So he's sunning his head right there, just laying across the trail. Right there is a trail, so I got to go around him. Leave him alone, let him do his job.
Didn't flinch.
All right, thought y'all find it interesting. First one of the week. Woohoo!
Day 6, and I'm actually feeling pretty good today. At the end of day 5, I actually started feeling better, but I still took my DayQuil. I took my last 2 pills in the morning and I was done, and I was feeling pretty good. In the morning, we had a long, tough climb up to the Audie Murphy Monument. That's a pretty cool monument. It's something I recommend. You could take a car to it, like a lot of people do, or you could hike up the mountain like Larry and I did. That was a tough climb. The views were rewarding. If you go just past the monument, there's a lookout. Larry and I took advantage of the bench at the lookout. We had our morning snack there, and we recovered from the long climb. We enjoyed the view. Then we went back and looked at the Audie Murphy Monument, and then we headed out for the next adventure, which would lead us to Dragon's Tooth. As you go northbound on the AT, you go up a long, rocky climb, and then you're rewarded with Dragon Tooth, which is a big rock cropping at the very top of the climb. We did a partial climb of the Dragon Tooth, and we got our pictures taken on top of the rock formation. During the day, we had met 2 other hikers who had broken their water filter system, so they ended up hiking with us the next 2 days, and every time we stopped to get water, we filtered their water for them. The descent off Dragon's Tooth was no joke. It was a tricky climb down, a lot of sheer cliff straight down. You had to use rebar to get down the cliff, and then you had narrow rock edges you had to hike down. It was tricky, fun, and challenging. After the exhilarating descent out of Dragon's Tooth, we hiked on over to the Catawba grocery store. There we had cheeseburgers and Gatorades, and then we hitched a ride over to Four Pines Hostel. Doodlebug gave us a ride in his van. We set up our tents, got a shower, did some laundry, and then headed to bed.
We're doing the last summit, the Audie Murphy Monument. A bunch of nice folks here who's walking us up, and look what we saw come across the path. It's probably a 5-footer.
Hi. He's moving.
He's moving. He says he smells us. We're hiker trash. You gotta get out of here. But yeah, I'm at the Audie Murphy Monument. He's a Hollywood guy and the World War II decorated pilot. So pretty big deal. We climbed 3,700 feet to get here, but pretty special memorial. A lot of things are left here in honor of him. All these cairns, these rock formations, people built by hand out of respect for him. So most of the older people probably remember him in his movies. Younger people probably don't. You can Google him. Here's his name. And if you want to read that, you can pause the video. So, and then there's his flagstaff. Somebody comes up here every day, works on the flag. So I don't know why it's at half staff today. But the rock cairns are really impressive too. Those are hand built by individuals as a tribute to him. All right, here we are. We're on the AT. We're outside Roanoke, Virginia, somewhere. Really, we're near Catawba, Virginia. And we're at the first part of the Triple Crown, which is Dragon's Tooth. It's a giant monolith sitting off the AT trail, stone monolith. And we've been climbing all day. We're 3,600 feet or 3,500 feet along its back, the spine of the dragon, which is a bunch of rocks we've been on all day. And there's the Dragon's Tooth. So this is stage 1 of the Triple Crown. Stage 2 is McAfee Knob. Stage 3 is Tinker's Cliffs. And these are just some massive we've been climbing all through this stuff all day. And here comes a view. And I think Larry said he's gonna climb up there. I'm not. So there's one of the views. He's climbing up that thing. A lot of people do it. That won't be on my list. So once again, we're at the Dragon Tooth. Later.
I caught it.
All right.
You guys want to?
Up here on Dragon's Tooth. I made it. These guys talked me into coming up here. I'm up here, selfie world. All right.
I was gonna say.
All right, we're up here at the top.
Watching
Those
him,
3 knuckleheads talked me into climbing up here.
watching him made me nervous.
So I'm here.
Doing it myself.
Probably shouldn't be, but I'm 53. I don't get a chance to do this kind of stuff anymore, so
It's your last chance.
it's my last chance. But I was told on the trail I'd make it, so.
we were huffing and puffing
Hi.
up the hill, and this guy's like, "Oh, you'll make it."
Later.
But it has
All right, here's the descent
so you can see his
on
adventure
Dragon's
going down.
Tooth. We gotta go down some rebar. He's going down,
We came from up there.
and he continues to go down, all the way down there. we came from way up in those rocks, down to there.
Yep.
Day 7 on the trail, and I'm actually feeling pretty good. This is the best I've felt in over a week. We got up in the morning, we packed our stuff up, and then we headed over to the Catawba grocery store where we had breakfast. At that point, we jumped in the van for a free shuttle ride back to the trailhead from Catawba Grocery. And then we started our hike to the VA 311 parking lot for McAfee Knob. It's the main parking lot where everybody parks so they can hike up to see the great views from McAfee Knob. We got started, and the morning hike ended up being in a lot of cow pastures. And the sun, for some reason, it really made us feel uncomfortable. We got overheated. By the time we made it to the Virginia 311 parking lot, we were dehydrated. We met a ridge runner there, and Larry hopped a ride down to the Catawba grocery store where he brought back a bunch of Gatorades because the water sources along the trail, they were all dried up. Downing a nice, large, cold Gatorade in the parking lot really helped a lot. Plus I had an extra one to throw in my backpack for a 5-mile hike up from the parking lot to McAfee Knob. Lucky for us today that Mother Nature was cooperating, because once we got done with the 5-mile hike up to McAfee Knob, we were rewarded with some fantastic views. It was beautiful. The clouds, they added just the amount of background to the blue skies. Once you get to McAfee Knob and you see the views, the splendor, the grandeur, you understand why this is one of the most photographed spots along the entire Appalachian Trail. So if you ever get a chance and you're in the middle of Virginia, you go over to Catawba, Virginia, you park in the parking lot on VA 311, and you make the 5-mile hike up to McAfee Knob. You get to enjoy the views, and then you get a nice 5-mile hike back down to the parking lot. After spending some time at McAfee Knob and enjoying the sights and getting all of our different pictures taken, we headed off just down the trail to have lunch. There, we sat in a little bitty creek bed, got our water and ate lunch, and had a little adventure with a large black snake. After lunch, we made the 4-mile hike over to Tinker Cliffs. Tinker Cliffs is the third jewel in the Virginia hiking Triple Crown. The Virginia Triple Crown consists of Dragon's Tooth, and then you go to McAfee Knob, and then you go to Tinker's Cliff. And you get all 3 of those views all in a short period of hiking distance. It's quite a thrill, and I highly recommend it to everyone who has a chance to hike in that area.
Alright, it's Thursday morning, day 7. Larry and I started our hike on the trail. We're just coming right along, show you what it looks like. And, oh, hello, Mr. Cow. Goodbye, Mr. Cow. Thanks for letting us pass. All the flies all over him. Hello, Mr. Cow. Alright, later. Alright, one last video on Dragon's Tooth. It's the next day. We're hiking out of the valley and back into a mountain. We look back and there's Dragon's Tooth way up there, that rock outcropping. So what we did, there's the spine of the dragon. We hiked from right there all the way across the spine of that dragon, and then that's all. I don't know if you can tell by this video, that's all rocks, outcroppings that we jumped over. 2 miles, 3 miles, and then we got to Dragon's Tooth up there, and then we descended almost virtually straight down through a rock scramble into the valley. And then we stayed at the hostel that night, and then we're up at it this morning and we're climbing out of the valley. Later. Alright, so me and Larry are sitting in this creek bed eating lunch, getting our water, and I'm sitting there eating, getting ready to filter my water. Here's me. I don't know if you can see that, and I just look over to my left. Let me move my food back. I look over my left and I see this black hose. That's where we're getting the water from. I don't know if you can see it. The dribble. So I just looked over the hose. I was like, man, there's black hoses everywhere. And then I look over and I said, holy crap, this black hose moved. And this black hose next to him is this big old black snake. So
He's got a little fatter body than yesterday.
this is a big one. So I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but it startled
Still
me.
moving.
It startled me a little bit when he moved.
He's going up in that hole.
Yeah, there he goes.
Oh, wow.
So, gotta watch where you sit.
Yeah,
But,
now that we've done set.
Now that I've sat down beside him and ate right beside him, so thought y'all found that interesting. Later. All right, we're on the ledges outside McAfee Knob going to Tinker Cliffs, and here's part of the trail. Larry's climbing. We gotta follow the white blazes up the rocks. That's all we've done this section is climb these big old rocks. So I'll be joining him as soon as he gets out of sight. Up, up, and away. It's been like that. Later. All right, here we are. Triple Crown number 3, Tinker's Cliffs. We're gonna do a 1/2 mile ridge walk along these rocks. And that's Tinker's Cliff. And if we look, that's the valley. And that big mountain right there is McAfee Knob. We were standing on that a couple hours ago, and then we walked across that ridge line all the way down there. Right, see if I can point to it. Right there. We walked that ridge line all the way over to here. So I think it's like 4 miles. So we walked down that and then came up here, and now we're gonna walk along these. It's Tinker's Cliff, number 3 on the Triple Crown. Later.
Day 8 is our last day on the trail, and the terrain was pretty nice. It was fast. It was flat or downhill most of the way. The only big view we had was a monolith rock formation and then a reservoir. And then we headed down into Daleville, and we crossed Virginia 220, stopped at a gas station, got chocolate milk, a Gatorade, and a Snickers. And then we crossed the busy highway, and we headed back into the trail on our way to Troutville, which is a pretty neat little hike from Daleville to Troutville because you follow the highway, Interstate 81. Got to the Troutville trailhead, and sure enough, Larry's car was still there in one piece, no vandalism. So that was a great end to our hike. We changed our clothes, got into our street clothes, out of our hiking clothes, and then we headed on down the highway back home to Shepherdsville, Kentucky.
Good morning, everyone. 8:20 in the morning,
Sorry.
and this is the valley waking up. See all the mountain ranges, the farm down there in the bottom corner. There's cows grazing down there. Let me put the poles down. See the cows grazing down there. All the fog in the different valleys. Quite a sight. I mean, that just goes on forever. Little mountain ranges tipping up out of the fog. So, all right, morning, our last day of hiking. Looks like another day of no rain. There's one of the local reservoirs. Looks a little dry. Could use some rain. We've been on the trail 8 days and we've not had any rain, so I'm sure rain would be welcomed in this area. All right, we're almost to Daleville and Troutville and done with our hike, our 8-day hike.
Four Pines Hostel is definitely the most unique hostel I've stayed at in the entire southern section of the Appalachian Trail. It's a free hostel. It's run by donations. A family who lost their son started the hostel in memory of their son because he liked to hike. So the caretaker, he volunteers his time and he shuttles people back and forth to the trail. It's the only hostel in this region. So if you go hike the Triple Crown, it's basically the only place you can stay at. It's definitely a low-end, no-frills kind of place you stay at. But it's just what you need. They got a shower, they got a place where you put your tent, and you can actually get a little AC if you need it.
Egg producing time.
There's a chicken, there's a rooster that woke me up this morning. He started at 5 o'clock and he hadn't stopped.
You got all.
Damn thing. There's a rooster that woke me up. One of the chickens he's chasing. And he ain't shut up since 5 o'clock.
That wraps up this section hike video. 120-mile backcountry hike from Trench Grocery on Virginia 606 all the way to Troutville, Virginia on Virginia 11. That's just north of Daleville. Wildlife was scarce on this trip. No bears, no rattlesnakes. We saw 3 black snakes, saw 4 deer, and we saw a whole bunch of cows. The weather was dry that whole week. Dry, dry, dry. It didn't rain a single drop morning, noon, or night for 8 days and 7 nights. The temperatures were in the high 70s to low 80s during the day and in the mid 60s during the night. This was an absolutely spectacular section of hike. This thing was loaded. We got to see Pearisburg, the trail town. We got to go to Daleville, the trail town. We got to stay in a haunted shelter, Wapiti Shelter. We got to see the largest oak tree in the southern Appalachian Trail, the Keffer Oak. We got to go on the Eastern Continental Divide. But most of all, we got to go through the Virginia hiking Triple Crown, which consists of Dragon's Tooth, McAfee Knob, and Tinker's Cliff. It was truly spectacular. Hopefully this video will inspire you to go hike this section of the Appalachian Trail, the AT. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click on the red subscribe button below. If you like this video, click the thumbs up. If you dislike this video, click the thumbs down. If you have any feedback, leave it in the comment section below. And don't forget to go out there and hike the Appalachian Trail, the AT.